Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the reunion of Final Fantasy VII Remake podcast. I am your host, Kai, and joining me again today is my incredible co-host, Vyzz. How are you doing, Vyzz?
Still alive, it seems. No, I'm pretty good these days. I had a slump like 1-2 weeks ago, but now it's better, and we're back. New
Mm-hmm.
year, and how's it been? The change to New Year's at your point?
It's been pretty good. Just trying to take some me time to do things that I enjoy, and we are actually in a state of emergency here in Ontario in Canada. So we're on another lockdown and things are closed. So, you're limited to things that you could do. And I've just been, working and also trying to find time to just play some games and enjoy that while I can, and also work on this podcast. So it's been going really well. And yeah, so same to you. Happy New Year to you. So did you have
Thank
anything
you.
that you did for New Year's?
Not too much. I had one friend over, and we made pizza ourselves.
Nice.
And then we tried to watch a movie, but our infrastructure had changed since last time, and
Okay.
the 4K movie I downloaded wasn't really playing on anything, so we
Oh.
it took like 2 hours to figure out how to
Oh
play it
no.
on our beamer, and then we made it work like a few minutes before
Oh.
midnight. Then we celebrated, and then just started watching, and I think about a quarter or a third of the movie I kind of dozed off.
Yeah.
But it was fine. I need to watch it again. It was Tenet.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I haven't seen that
Yeah,
yet. I heard it's really good though.
it's fine. It's pretty good. Yeah, but I still need to watch it again
Mm-hmm.
because I don't really know what was going on because I didn't see
Yes.
all of it. Was pretty good nonetheless.
I'm the same type of person. Like my friend and I, like when we were able to hang out before, she was like, "Oh, let's have a movie night or whatever," and I'm like, "Sure." So, I like rented some digital movies online and made sure that they had 4K HDR. And then I couldn't get it working, the same thing. And then, an hour and a half goes by, and she's like, "Can we just like watch a different movie, probably?" You know what I mean? And not that one, like
Yeah.
something on Netflix. But I just couldn't let it go, and I'm just like, oh, like everybody knows me as that. I'm
Mm,
that guy, like that's who
same.
I am. I just can't let it
Yeah.
go.
In the end, we had to download the full HD, so the
Okay, I hear
1080p
you.
version, and
Yeah.
then my laptop could handle it because the
Same.
PS4 and the PS4 Pro, neither of them would play it.
Right.
They didn't recognize format, whatever, and it was weird. Oh well.
Yeah, same with me. I just pretty much binged on anime, and I'm watching Black Clover, so still need to finish that. And played some video games on New Year's, and that's pretty much it. All right, guys. So the best way to support us here is to like, sub, and share the podcast. Hop on over to our YouTube channel and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And also sub us on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are available everywhere. And also check us out on Twitter. I have been more active on Twitter, trying to engage in the Final Fantasy VII community. And yeah, it's been awesome. So just retweeting other people's posts and posts that I think are super interesting that I hope that our listeners would find interesting as well. And we have some awesome things planned for the future, have some special guests hopefully being scheduled to be here on the podcast. And we will be doing some exclusive giveaways of some things. So more info coming on that. So make sure that you follow our Twitter account as well for more information about those giveaways. All right. So what's been on the go over at Cosmo Canyon Observatory?
A lot of work and not much to be seen by the public. Now I'm pretty far in, or almost finished with the next video. It was a bit more work than anticipated, but
Mhm.
we're almost through. It's the first part of the Final Fantasy 16 analysis, like mostly focused on the crystals, the world, the
Yeah.
realms and stuff, and the world map. Yeah, that's about it. And afterwards, we'll continue with mystery analysis of the mysteries of the Final Fantasy VII Remake
Hmm.
with Cloud and Sephiroth. Focus on those two because there are so many scenes where the mysteries involve both. So I
Yep.
decided to get both into one video, a mini video series. First wanted to do Cloud first and then Sephiroth, and then I realized, well, I would be repeating so many scenes and it's not worth it. So,
Hmm.
but it's another 2 hour thing probably, like the whole thing. We'll split
Yep.
it up into 3 episodes, like the Aerith analysis to get it out faster. But in the end, it will also be a complete one, at least 2 hours, I guess, because there's a lot to say about Cloud, and especially Sephiroth.
Hmm.
A lot. But that's for the future.
Well, I can't wait to see, what all the information that you have in your analysis videos, especially for Final Fantasy 16 as well, because I know that, we got the official website, we've got more lore information and just the trailer as well. And I'm sure there are things because, you take out your magnifying glass and you're like looking
Mhm.
through frame by frame. So I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I missed in that trailer as well. And I'm really excited actually to watch your Final Fantasy 16 analysis video, and it's kind of a good distraction while we're waiting for more information about this game, right? So
Oh,
I can't
definitely,
wait for
yeah.
that.
Whenever it will release, like new information, we have no idea. I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure that February 5th, I think, we'll get more news about 14, like the new expansion,
Right.
as people predict, because it's time already. And then this will probably get a little breather. So March, maybe there will be announcements for definitive edition for the remake or something like that, because exclusivity ends on April 10th. So this could be something in between, and then maybe May, June or something, more
Hmm.
16 news. Probably. I don't know. It's hard to predict because I'm not really a market analyst.
It's all good. We're going to talk about this more in depth in a little bit. So, today's episode, we will be answering your questions in our special Ask Anything episode. But first, we will be giving our hot take on the recently released Square Enix trademarks, also the definitive edition being announced in February, the Final Fantasy VII Orchestra World Tour update, and a leaked Nintendo Direct document which showed Final Fantasy VII Remake releasing on the Switch. All right, so our first thing today is we are talking about the Square Enix trademarks. All right, guys. So what happened was there was an article that was released by Gamatsu, and here's what it said. Square Enix filed trademarks for Ever Crisis and The First Soldier on December 17th, 2020 in Japan, as well as the Shinra Electric Power Company logo on December 22nd. All three trademarks were just made publicly today, which was Monday, January the 11th, 2021. All three trademarks seem to be related to Square Enix Final Fantasy VII series. Ever Crisis shares a similar name to the 2004 released mobile game Before Crisis and Final Fantasy VII, and 2007 released PSP game Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. The First Soldier may be a reference to Sephiroth, the main villain of Final Fantasy VII series, and the Shinra Electric Power Company is an organization, obviously in the world of Final Fantasy VII. The latest game in the Final Fantasy VII series, Final Fantasy VII Remake, launched in April 2020, which we know. So we're just going to take a second to kind of, break this down and talk about it together. So Vyzz, I think you wrote a lot here, so I think you should definitely go first, and then I'll just give like my take.
Oh, for sure. So first off, Ever Crisis. There's been like a theme going on with the naming of the compilation titles, with
Hmm.
Advent Children being AC and Before Crisis being BC, Crisis Core CC, and Dirge of Cerberus DC. Now Ever Crisis is EC. So there are a lot of speculations going
Hmm.
on, and some people suggest even that those might be like EC or Ever Crisis and the First Soldier are the next two games in the remake saga.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Maybe EC, maybe not. So first, the First Soldier is pretty clear Sephiroth because it's where everything started with Soldier,
Hmm.
and I can't see this being anything other than a Sephiroth backstory probably DLC or a smaller game, side game or something. Hopefully not mobile or whatever, or a movie.
Right.
It would be pretty cool that it's actually a bigger DLC expansion for the remake, like those two that were for The Witcher 3. Like
Right.
I forget the names. Blood and Wine and Hearthstone or something. No, Whew, I never played those, so I'm not quite up to date. But yeah, I've heard about those, and that they're pretty good. Like
Hmm.
10 hours each around new content or something, around 10 hours each. Hopefully, but I don't think there's much more to speculate right here. Some people said that the first soldier could also be first class soldier, so FC. That's why
Oh,
EC and
wow.
FC being the next two compilation titles, and the remake being also part of a compilation because it's a sequel, yada yada yada. Could be, could not be, but the first soldier doesn't scream FC. And some people have said that in the Japanese, they usually don't say first class, but more like just first, soldier second.
Oh, I see.
So, yeah, probably not. But yeah, Ever Crisis, the word ever sounds like something infinite, like a
Hmm.
loop of sorts, something that repeats or something that goes on in eternity. In our video about Aerith, we in the end theorized about Aerith going back multiple times to kind of rewrite and then lose herself again. Like the
Hmm.
whispers get her and she loses like her future knowledge and everything gets reset. So her future self has to go back in an earlier time in the past to try to fix things again or to change things again, like kind of a repeat, a loop, something that goes on forever, seemingly.
Yes.
So it's possible that it's something. It's kind of a side story. Do we see what Aerith did? Because it's probably too big to be in the main storyline. It's
Hmm.
something kind of a side story that we get more context for. Or Ever Crisis could also refer to like the crisis that has been going on forever. Like 2,000 years ago, Genova came to the planet, and
Hmm.
as the calamity from the skies was the first crisis, so to speak. Maybe there were others before. Sleepy has theorized about this 2,000-year cycle, which now
Hmm.
repeats. Kind of this cycle might be a reference here, so it could be something related to Genova and the Cetra backstory that relates to the crisis now, which might relate to something that could be there in the future, which relates to the remake. I don't know. And some people have also suggested it could also, because it's close to to Crisis Core and
Hmm.
Ever Crisis, that it might be a side story from Zack's perspective, which
Right.
also might not have any room in the main story, the main games, so that we see what he's been up to, or what he will now be up to since he's now alive. I'm not so sure about that. I can see him being used in interjected Laguna segments as people, and I think Max Dude was one of the first ones who suggested this.
Hmm.
But Zack just pops in. Oh, now we play part of Zack to see what he's up to, and then back to the rest. Because too much of Zack now is probably just too much and would kind of dilute the story and be a distraction. Maybe there's material to be told, stories to be told, maybe. But from my current perspective, I don't think
Hmm.
they should focus too much on Zack, at least in the next iteration. Maybe for the last part when he gets more important. If yeah, it all depends on where they will go and what they plan with him. So it's hard to speculate. But I have a video planned about the ending and Zack, so I'll go much more into detail in that. But this is for after the Sephiroth and Cloud video, so there will be a while until I have really time to sit down, think about everything and actually put all the thoughts I had together into one coherent thing. So
Right.
yeah.
All right. So I'm trying to kind of like think about think about all of this, and obviously this is just some fun speculation. We're not, saying that in any way this is it's going to end up like, or and also if it's not a new game, like I'm not going to be disappointed, but I'm just giving my like opinion about what I think it could be. And I'm holding my expectations. Like I don't have any expectations like going into this. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to
Mm.
like put that out there, so people like understand that it's just some fun speculation about what this could be. And I just found it super interesting, like you said, that the letters go A C B C C C D C and now
Mm.
EC is kind of like, that's kind of a weird coincidence that they would have this. It's too much of a coincidence, I feel like, for it not to be some kind of clue, or just like it's intentional. Do you know what I mean? I think that it's
Mm.
intentional, and there is something in the actual in Final Fantasy VII Remake that Barrett says. I don't know if you know what that line is, but he does mention plans or something about there being plan A, B, C, D,
Oh
and
yeah,
E.
yeah. I've seen people talk about this too, and I think this is maybe a bit too far-fetched, or just a joke, an inside joke about this lettering. Maybe it's, yeah, it could be a hint, but
It
I
could
don't
absolutely
know.
be, yes, but it's just coincidental that it does go up to letter E, and then I don't think he says letter F. I'm not sure what the exact quote is, but I think it's just somebody quoted that like online, and I read it and I was like, oh my god, this is so crazy. And I thought that was super cool. If it's kind of a hint, if it's not, then and it's just something random, it doesn't matter. But I just thought that was super cool. And so I totally agree with you.
Hang on, hang on. I just had an idea.
An epiphany.
Since since the plan E is the one we get to experience in the remake, because plan A was no detection, everything went smoothly, of course didn't happen. Then B, C, and D were like middle steps in between, depending on where they got caught, and they got caught very early, so it was plan E. So E, we played through E, so E would be the remake, like the next iteration in, or the next entry in the compilation. Maybe.
Hmm.
So Ever Crisis could kind of be something to, or maybe the overall descriptor for the remake project, like in general.
Yeah.
That the remake itself, with all the whole story that will eventually be told, is the Ever Crisis. I think someone mentioned this even, but now it makes a bit more sense that they chose the letter E for the actual plan. That's and it's the last. And the remake will probably also be the last in the compilation, or at least I hope
Hmm.
so, because at some point they need to stop milking that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just a side note: this F, G, and H is only a reference to the sectors or the sections in Chapter 6, like
Right.
when they have the underplate part, or the
Hmm.
undercity section. Might be nothing, but
Yeah.
I don't think there will be an F, G, and an H in the compilation or something. Yeah.
So I do agree with you about what you said about Ever Crisis. I actually read your response here and I thought, okay, so that sounds super interesting. Like it's a time loop, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's continuously repeating itself, and Aerith is traveling through time, probably trying to rewrite history or change some kind of event that's happening. And every time she's losing a part of herself, and she does describe that in the remake
Mm-hmm.
at one point where she feels like a part of her, every time a part of herself is being taken away and she feels less and less like herself, right? And that's probably the cost that she's taking, that like it's costing her that to go back so many times. So it could be like, it's a continuous loop, it's always happening. And the same thing that goes for Sephiroth as well. Like he's also constantly going back and trying to change some kind of event. He needs Cloud for something we don't know yet, and potentially could be, Aerith is chasing him through the time the timelines or the whatever is happening. And I thought that was
Mm.
super, super interesting as well. I don't know if this is going to be like, personally, I don't think Ever Crisis is like the next part of the remake. I don't think that's like what it is, because I don't
Yeah,
like, I
same.
believe what Nomura and Kataze said, that the events of the Final Fantasy VII after leaving Midgar are going to play out the same. I think that that's going
Or
to be
similar.
part, or
Yeah.
similarly, yeah. And I think that's going to be part 2. I don't think if Ever Crisis ends up being a game, that is part 2 of the remake. I think that it could potentially be DLC, like you said, or it's another spin-off game completely that is a remake. It's Crisis Core and Before Crisis, as like with the remake treatment that Final Fantasy VII Remake got, or Final Fantasy VII OG got as the remake. And because Before Crisis was only released on mobile and not even in North America, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that was only in Japan.
Japan only, yeah, I think.
So we didn't even get that story here. Like, that it could be, I was thinking it was Before Crisis and Crisis Core, given the remake treatment, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, and then released as a new game on next gen, and potentially like we are playing as, like, obviously we go through everything that's happened in the past. We're going, we get to play as Zack, but it might have changes to the storyline where, like, I don't know, where things that are happening in the present time, like with the whispers and everything, like, and Aerith potentially, like you said, stuck in a time loop and she's going back, so things don't play out exactly the same. And so people who played Crisis Core, it's like a new game. You know what I mean? It's not just like a rehash of Crisis Core. And then the ending of that plays into the fact that it's discovered that potentially it's a loop. And then that kind of explains how at the end of Crisis Core, when we see Zack is alive. Sorry, spoiler alert for everybody that I'm so sorry. Spoiler now, if you haven't played Final Fantasy VII Remake, stop listening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why are you even listening to an FF7 remake podcast if you haven't played it yet? Anyway, tweet Cheryl.
I just keep forgetting, because I feel like I am spoiling people, and I don't want to purposefully do that. I haven't had any complaints or anything yet, but anyway. So the ending of Final Fantasy VII Remake, we see that obviously, like, in some timeline, Zack is alive, and I feel like this could be a possibility. But then if that's how the new remake of like Crisis Core ends up, like Ever Crisis, which is a bundle of both games that have been remade, I just don't see them spoiling the ending of those games at the end of Remake. So that kind of is a deterrent for me, like thinking that it's probably not real what I'm saying. But my thought process is, we didn't get to play Before Crisis, so it would be a cool opportunity for them to kind of go back, remake these games, and make them so that they fit more in with the changes, or not the changes, but the way that the remake, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, is going, which we know that it's going to play out similarly, but there are going to be different things happening. So that was one thought process that I had. I might be completely wrong. Who knows? It's just fun speculation.
For sure. That's why we're here.
Yeah. And the next, so I thought it might be a standalone game, it's not just DLC, because I just don't know if they're going to be able to encapsulate like everything that they want to share as a DLC for Final Fantasy VII Remake, and also the assets that are in that game that would have to reuse. And there are some that would work, I feel, but I just don't, I see it as being a completely separate game that could potentially be like a spin-off game, or it's a movie.
That's also a possibility, or a series.
Yep, absolutely. An animated series, or, it's, I don't want to say like Final Fantasy 15, Brotherhood anime episodes. Like, I thought those were well done. I don't see it as being the same as that, but potentially a television series or a movie of some sort, or something like that, because we did get The Last Order, right? Was that episode that we got that was animated as well, that we got with I think episode Denzel as well, that we got, right, with the Advent Children Blu-ray. Yeah, it was on the Advent Children Blu-ray. It's called episode Denzel, I think. which was really well done as well. So anyway,
Yep.
that's what I was thinking. And I was just thinking that I was in the shower and I was just like, I was like, I believe them when they're saying that, you know, part two is not going to be a Zack game. Like part two, I feel is just going to happen the same way as it kind of plays out in the normal Final Fantasy VII. There's going to be some changes there and things that are updated, blah, blah, blah. I believe them when they say that. I just don't see Remake part two being a Zack game. I just don't see it.
Me neither. This would be weird.
So anyway, that was my thought process. It could be a short DLC expansion that we get with Definitive Edition if it ends up coming out, or we don't know. And like you said, I would love to see a Jenova Cetra backstory. Absolutely. And also, like, shout out to Final Fantasy V, posted as well, said the same thing. So, you know, Jenova Cetra backstory, like prequel game would be absolutely incredible because there's so much that we don't know about Jenova and the crisis there. And, you know, when, you know, the calamity fell from the sky and everything that, you know, happened, that we know of, I think that the lore there is so, like, incredible that they could do so many amazing things with this, and there's so much that we don't know. That would be super interesting as well. So who knows? But that's my hot take for Ever Crisis.
Yeah, just some extended thoughts about Ever Crisis encapsulating Before Crisis and Crisis Core. It could be, whether it be a movie, a series, or actually a game, it could like not just retell everything or just be a remake, but actually kind of the retelling of the same or similar events,
Yeah.
but like compressed to the more important parts, so that that everyone like knows what happens there. It's kind of the complete backstory of Final Fantasy VII. I think 7 years before it starts, 7 or 8 years before.
I'm pretty sure it's 7.
Something like that. I don't quite remember. I keep forgetting about certain dates and stuff from the timeline. Even though I have the world preview with the whole timeline in there, and Scholar Lunais in our
yes,
in our community has also created a huge Excel sheet with which is even contains even more like details and stuff than the one you find on livestream.net, I think. So there's a lot there, but yeah, my brain just can't hold everything if I
totally
don't
understand.
keep repeating those things. I just I have to keep looking those things up. Anyway, so Crisis Core, the actual core of the crisis is the Nibelheim incident 5 years ago, and I think 7 years ago is when Zack gets or is still second class, not first class, and in the Wutai War. I think that's 2 years before, and Before Crisis also starts, I think, 7 years before, because there's lots happening before the Nibelheim incident, and then we go through the Nibelheim incident, or at least the same time. We know that Cloud goes there and came back from there, or didn't came back from there, and then I think it even ends shortly before the main game, the original game starts, where they defeat Zirconiate in this weird dimension above Midgar, and when the dimension explodes, I think it also destroys Sector 6 or something like that. I don't remember the exact details, but it would be nice to like gather all of those events and happenings that are there into one thing. That would be pretty cool. But what I also forgot to say before, Ever Crisis, not sure if name is really appropriate, but if it's next installment in the compilation, it could be something like the time after Dirge of Cerberus, until the time where Sephiroth and Aerith decided to, quote unquote, go back in time to change things, that we actually know what happens there, what was the motivation for both to change events,
that's
change
interesting.
things.
I like that.
Yeah, because the thing is, many people talk about time loop and go back in time, but is actually a little bit of a misnomer if we take our current CCO theory about this as the premise, which is that the remake, the first game, happens completely in the memories of the live stream. So this means that Sephiroth, who is, of course, in the live stream, has been since 5 years before the original started.
Mm-hmm.
But in kind of the negative part, the corrupted part, Aerith is in the uncorrupted part. And
Okay.
they also have more and more access to the memories. And
Mm-hmm.
after time, or maybe, I don't know who, probably Sephiroth discovers it first, that he could actually take some memories that are already committed to the live stream and change
Mm-hmm.
something, because he already has the connection to Cloud and therefore also the connection to the memory of Cloud, and can then connect to this and start influencing the memories with by influencing Cloud's thoughts there, or his behavior, and thus change memories. Aerith, being etc., and being in tune with the planet, also is able to connect to herself and therefore change the memories as well. But both have to fight against the Whispers, because the Whispers, or aka the planet's time police, let's say, need to keep this in check. Like the memories shouldn't be altered. Like you
Okay.
also wouldn't want someone else to alter your memories of the past, because if you alter
Exactly.
the memories, you'll become a different person, because then you think, oh, I've done this and this happened, and I know this person and I don't know this person now. So you could completely change something. So the planet doesn't want that. But this is actually exactly what we do. And now the
Mm-hmm.
future has been rewritten, or the future needs to be written again. Most of this can also be found in our latest video, which is 2 hours long, with secrets, game analysis episode 24. This is just the short rundown of the last quarter or something with the wacko theory.
Mm-hmm.
So this is for context, because it would be pretty cool to actually see what happens that
Yeah.
that prompts Sephiroth to go back, because
Mm-hmm.
I have a few theories which will flow into future videos about Cloud and Sephiroth. And this, if this, I think the real Anarchy and I came up with that in a chat in a CCO server.
Mm-hmm.
And if this turns out to be sort of accurate, or the direction they go, this will be nuts. But pretty cool.
But Sephiroth says multiple times throughout as well, like, I will, what does he say? I'll never be a memory
Yeah,
or
this is the
something.
last thing he says in Advent Children, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that he exists in people's memories, and he is a
Mm-hmm.
manifestation of the memory of what he is and was. And for some reason, I don't know, like, he needs maybe to do something to be like, come back, to exist in reality again, or something like that. Like, anyway, we'll talk, like, we
Yeah.
talk later about all that. But
Because don't get me started, we'll sit
yeah.
here for another half an
Mm-hmm,
hour.
mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But for the first soldier, I definitely am getting Sephiroth backstory vibes as well.
Mm-hmm.
People online were kind of talking on Twitter about, the first soldier was actually Genesis.
I don't remember the exact timeline, but no, just get Genesis out of everything, please.
But Genesis was a failed experiment, essentially, because it wasn't 100% successful, because he degraded as time went by. But Sephiroth is considered to be like a successful experiment with the Genova project. So for me, I take it as like Sephiroth backstory, or some kind of a story about Sephiroth. Could be a prequel DLC, or it could be, like I said, like a movie, some kind of a something. Who knows? It might not be anything. It could be nothing. It could literally be food, which is what I wrote. I wrote
Yeah,
in this
could
on our
be, yeah.
podcast server in the pub text
Yeah.
channel. Nobody even laughed. Like nobody came back. Everybody's like, I think it's this, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yo, I think it's food. No.
I think I
And then it was
missed
just like
this.
the text channel completely went silent. And I'm like, oh God, like I killed the text channel. Imagine it's just like a Square Enix like licensed like food product. You know what I mean? Like it's just like some kind of a cereal, breakfast cereal or something. Anyways, I'm just like, here's my hot take. It's food.
It's food.
It's
Well,
silent. Nobody
you
says
know,
anything.
The thing is,
It's some
never
kind of
know with
food
Square
at the
Enix.
Square Enix
Yeah.
cafe.
yeah,
You know? Like who knows? They still gotta trademark that stuff, you know, so people can't steal it.
Yeah. Also, the Shinra Electric Company logo, maybe kind of a cookie or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, Shinra
Square
Power
cookie.
Electric Company. What about for merchandise? Like if they want to sell this on like something, I know they own the properties, but maybe it could be, maybe they are licensing like that to another company, or they have to file a trademark because they realize they didn't have one for the logo, and there's another game that wants to use that.
Maybe, yeah.
Right? Like what about, obviously like all of this was, all the Final Fantasies content was added to Smash Bros. Maybe it's an update for Smash Bros. It's more content. Maybe they want to use the Shinra logo some kind of a costume, like who knows, right? Like geez, it could be nothing. It could be nothing.
That's the thing with the trademarks. You never know for what
Exactly
is used, because usually they just trademark something. They have an idea, want to make sure that nobody else is able to get first.
Yeah.
So they trademark it, and maybe nothing comes of it. Maybe 10 years down the line, you don't know. But yeah, Sephiroth backstory, which starts with his birth, maybe even a bit before, and then we get to play as him being like 5 years old and being stronger than everyone else, being ostracized or something like that. I don't quite remember if he was always isolated or was actually able to like grow up with a few other kids. I don't remember if that's been discussed anywhere officially.
I'm not sure.
I don't think so, because this would be pretty cool. And then just see him grow up, and then you actually level up, and then you're like 1 or 2 years older and in another class, and you learn new stuff. And I don't know, just spitballing.
It would be interesting to give him more depth, I guess. Like he's already such a like powerful, and like he's just a powerful and evil character, and the OG did a good job of just making, like, helping you understand why he's doing what he's doing. And also you kind of feel bad for him. Like I felt bad for him, you know, when he's in the library and then he's like just kind of descending into madness, and just,
I was about to say that.
the information that you get, you're like, oh my God, like this guy is really messed up. Like I just feel bad. Like, you know, and some other Final Fantasy like games in the series, like you don't get that. You don't get anything. It's just like,
not much, no.
They're just evil, you know, for being evil. Like
Seymour did get a little bit of backstory.
Yes,
I'm not sure if it's but I think it's optional. I think when you go to Baj Temple or something.
Exactly.
Which is where his mother and he got expelled to, because a child from Guado and human, blah blah. Don't want to spoil FF10 too much, but
but I would super be interested in that. Some people online said, ew, no, I don't want that. I don't want to know anything about Sephiroth, because if they mess with it, they can ruin it, and then I don't care about him as a character or as a villain anymore. Like I just don't. And I respect that as well. I think that's an interesting take, because he is the way that he is inside of our minds, and then all of a sudden, you know, he isn't the way that we thought he was, and then people would be disappointed because a lot was left up to our own imagination and our own like thought process.
That's one problem,
like draw our own conclusions about his motivations, and like we are given a little bit, but anyway, people don't want it tampered with, and I respect that and I understand that as well. So
this is why the original worked so well. You only heard about Sephiroth, and then you heard that Cloud wanted to be like Sephiroth and went to be a soldier. Then, like
Yeah.
his name got mentioned a few times, and
Yeah.
then you see his sword, but not him. Did you know? Oh,
Yes.
okay. He just killed the president of the conglomeration we were
Oh my
after this
gosh.
whole time.
Yeah.
And then you go after him. Cloud tells a story that he was
Well, the
kind of
Midgar
cool
Zolom
guy, but
is like
and then exactly. Then the Midgar Solam, which completely decimates you. You have
yeah.
to flee with a chocobo, and then Sephiroth just made a spiked
Yeah.
snake.
Impaled him.
Impaled snake,
Or
yeah.
impaled it on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, like if he's that powerful and I
Okay,
can't
yeah.
even defeat it, and I'm like continuously dying over and over again trying to defeat
Then you
this
see him the
Midgar
first
Zolom.
time on the boat,
Yeah.
and then you have to fight Genova, not even himself, and then it just goes from there. And Genova is also this kind of non-entity. You don't know much. You know a little bit when you watch the tapes in Icicle Inn, but not much else. And that's where the imagination comes into play. And I think this is also what worked so well for the movie. What's it called again? Like where the guys are like researchers and stuff, and people are at the North Pole or something, and suddenly there's a kind of an alien organism that can shapeshift into the other.
The Thing.
The Thing, right.
It's called The
exactly,
Thing.
The Thing.
Yeah,
it's derived from that.
It's John Carpenter, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is, yeah.
Amazing.
It's a good,
it's like one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's really good. And Genova is I think this is an official quote, or like officially acknowledged that Genova is kind of inspired by The Thing. And Sephiroth is inspired by what's it called again? This shark movie where you don't see
Jaws?
the shark. Jaws, right. Because you don't see Sephiroth for a long time, which generates this mystery and the menace around him. But now, since apparently everyone knows Sephiroth already, so we have to shove him into every other scene in the remake. Some people were upset about that. I came to terms with it, but
yeah, same. But I think there's a reason why, and I think it'll pay off in the future. Like
for sure.
Everything we're talking about the time loop is a thing, or maybe it's not. Maybe we're just, thinking all of this stuff up, and everything that we're thinking up is just way more interesting than what Square Enix ends up putting in the games, which sometimes that's the case, right? Like, but it's so cool to be able to just sit and speculate and actually brainstorm about these things and then see if we're right or not when we actually play through the game, and we'll see what happens. But to me, I agree with you. Like, for me, I took it as what it was. Like, going into Remake, I knew it wasn't going to be a copy of the original, and I was okay with that, and I was open to receiving it for what it was, and I appreciate it for what it was. And I didn't mind that we saw Sephiroth that much. I didn't care that much.
Yeah, same here. I was intrigued because what is he making here? What is he doing to Cloud? Why is he here? What's behind it? That's I think in that case they succeeded in creating,
I think so,
or generating more mystery and more like theory crafting or grounds for theory crafting, like the original did.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I think that there's a lot more that we don't know that they're not telling us.
Oh, definitely.
For me, it was just when we saw him when he touched Aerith's shoulder, and then everything kind of pauses, like time just stops or something, and then he's walking and Cloud has to follow him, and that was super powerful moment for me, because I was like, okay, I should have seen the hints that he was probably AC Sephiroth coming back in time. I didn't get that until after I had already talked or read online and talked to you about it and watched Max Dude's videos and like Easy Allies, spoiler cast and all that stuff. So I had time to kind of unpack all that, but in the moment I was like, okay, why is he doing that? Like, I didn't get that. It wasn't like evident to me at the time that was what was happening. but that's what I love. I love like figuring this stuff out after, and you're like, oh my god, then you want to go back and replay it, which
Mhm.
I need to go back and replay this game again, right? Like beginning
Yes,
to
you
end.
do.
There's so much that I've missed. Unfortunately, I sold my PS4 to pay for a PS5, and
Oh.
I haven't been able to get a PS5 yet. So who knows when I'll actually get to finish playing
Mhm.
this. I mean, go back to it again because I have to finish my hard playthrough. Anyway.
I still need to do that too. I'm still stuck in chapter 13, and
Hmm.
I've been busy with other games.
I
So
understand.
yeah.
All right, so moving on to our next part here, we're talking about Definitive Edition being announced in February. So this was an article that was posted by WCCFtech.com. So they say that Final Fantasy VII Remake is making the jump to PS5 in the future, and an announcement could be coming as early as next month in February. Resetera forums member Navtra, who proved to be extremely reliable last year in regards to Final Fantasy 16 rumors, revealed that PlayStation 5 version of Final Fantasy 7 Remake will be announced soon. And also, he also revealed that Final Fantasy 14's next expansion will be coming soon as well. So what he said about the trademarks Ever Crisis and Mayhenet's spin-offs, he said that he doesn't really know that much. He said Ever Crisis sounds like it could be the umbrella name for the remake project going forward, but that's just a guess. I think that this could be true. I think that potentially there could be an announcement in February that would, let everybody know that the game's coming out for PS5 and other platforms as well, because the exclusivity expires on the
Mm.
day that the game came out, which was April 10th, right? So I see this kind of makes sense naturally in the process of like when they're going to start to advertise for this thing, because it's the new year and April is pretty soon after like February. They have to start doing it soon. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get some more information about if there is a definitive edition coming, or maybe it's just a PlayStation 5 / Xbox Series X version of Final Fantasy VII Remake. We'll see what happens. I don't know what your take is. What do you think?
There's not really much to add because there's a lot of maybes in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, the Final Fantasy 14 expansion announcement is pretty much a given, I guess, from what I've
Mm-hmm.
heard.
Yeah, same.
And it's interesting that they mentioned Life is Strange 3. Well, it's time because 2 has been out for a while now.
Yep.
And this other, like Before the Storm, I think it was
Mm-hmm.
before. And I'm pretty sure they now have something else or even more of that in a pipeline. Wouldn't know why not.
Yeah.
Uh, PS5 version of the remake is a given at some point
Yeah.
because in the end they want everyone to be able to play all parts on one console. I guess would only make sense, but yeah, I don't think we can say anything more than the last time we theorized about it
Mm-hmm.
because there's not much more concrete information. More like, yeah, maybe it could be. I don't think I have to
Mm-hmm.
add anything more than that.
I think that kind of leads into our next thing as well that we're talking about, which is the Final Fantasy VII Orchestra World Tour has been canceled. It was supposed to take place on February 12th and 13th in Tokyo. However, both dates have been canceled until further notice due to the increasing COVID numbers in Japan, in Tokyo specifically. So I think that the Square Enix account, the Twitter account, sorry, said that they were looking into other options for continuing the performance, such as having a virtual concert without an audience. However, the performers, like the musicians, are performing in the venue, except that they sell a digital version of the ticket. And then you would be able to tune in at that time to be able to participate, like in watching the
Mm.
concert. Instead of issuing refunds for everybody, maybe they would open it up so that if you bought a ticket, you could confirm purchase for the ticket, and then they would just send you like a digital code for the like a virtual ticket to be able to watch. So we're still waiting for information on that. People online, especially on Twitter, were speculating that potentially we could get a trailer for Definitive Edition or something in February, because it kind of aligns with what Navtra had said about Final Fantasy VII Remake Definitive Edition being announced. This is February 12th and 13th. So, I don't know. I feel like it would be a good time to kind of release a trailer announcing that it's coming to, PS5 and Xbox Series X, and maybe announce a PC version of this game. I guess we'll see what happens, but somebody online was saying, they were asking like, oh no, like if this canceled, what do you think will happen? I think that they'll still announce it if they had planned on showing this thing at the Orchestra performance. I feel like they would still announce it for sure. It might be just digitally on YouTube or something like that. I'm not sure. But anyway, we don't know. It's all speculation right now. But
yeah, I can see them dropping something, because it is in the Final Fantasy VII Orchestra World Tour.
yes.
And it's only around 2 months off when the exclusivity expires.
Yep.
So it would make sense. This is, I think, the only best bet or good bet we have currently.
Yeah,
I can't
I
see
think so
anything
too.
else that's beyond speculation.
Mhm. And it's been kind of a dry spell right now. We haven't got any more information about Final Fantasy 16.
Mhm.
Remake came out, and we haven't gotten anything, just these trademarks and like what we've been talking about already, just pretty much rumors and speculations right now. And it does kind of, like you said, it kind of aligns with, it's a few months before the exclusivity expires. So it would be a good time to kind of start that whole, marketing trail, or whatever you want to call it, like promotion, right?
Yeah, kind of keep the remake in the conscious mind of the fans and the people and the gamers.
Yep. And we did get, obviously, the Final Fantasy VII content that was added to the Switch, which kind of brings us to our next part that we're talking about here. Was there was a leaked Nintendo document that shows Final Fantasy VII Remake releasing for the Switch. I put a clip of the picture here. Apparently it's fake, so somebody like typed this up. Apparently, I don't know if it's 100% disproved yet, but it does say that there's supposed to be like a Nintendo Direct on January 11th, and that obviously didn't happen. So all we got was Super Mario 3D World is being released for the Switch, and it comes with Bowser's Fury campaign, which is like a new campaign. People online were disproving this based on the fact that there's spelling errors. Like, for example, they spelled the word software without the E at the end.
Yep, I noticed that too.
But I just want to remind people as well that somebody posted the official script for Final Fantasy VII Remake, and there were things that were taken out last minute or something from the leak. And I also picked this out because there was a grammatical error in there, and people were like, oh, this is like the real script that, it's been proven and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, but I'm just, it's just funny that is the reason why this is fake, but yet like the leaked script for the game isn't fake because it has like grammatical errors or it has typos. Typos happen all the time. Somebody could have accidentally made a typo and didn't like edit this before sending it out. So I don't know if like spelling errors is actually a reason to disprove something, but anyway.
It is evidence, but not proof.
Yeah, exactly. So we talked about this on our last episode about Final Fantasy VII and all the content that was released for Smash Bros. Okay, so I think that it's quite possible that if they are releasing upgraded Nintendo Switch Pro, that they could port Remake to that console. It could be potentially an exclusive game for the Switch Pro that only uses that, powerful hardware that will help sell that console, which was my thought process. But then I also thought that Nintendo wouldn't want to alienate its millions of Switch users, for base Switch users as well. So they could essentially do like a timed exclusive where if you wanted the upgraded version, like the PS4 Pro version of Remake, then they released it for the Switch Pro, and then it came later as like with downgraded visuals to the base Switch, like kind of how they did with The Witcher 3, which is crazy that they even have The Witcher 3 on the Switch. Like I think that's insane. And I think that if it's I think if it's possible, it's definitely possible for them to put the Remake on Switch. So, and with all the content we got in Smash Bros, it could be, it could be them testing the waters to see if there's interest there to even port it over. Like, who knows? But I think that would be super cool. And I think that the possibility is quite high for them to actually release the remake on the Switch after the exclusivity expires. It's pretty much fair game. And why not? Why wouldn't they want to market this game and sell more copies of this game,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know, to gain back their money? But anyway, that's my thoughts. So
I think Unreal Engine, I'm not sure about version 4. I think version 4 also has a Nintendo Switch export function. I'm not quite
yeah.
savvy in that part,
Hmm.
but it's pretty much a given that it's much easier nowadays to port to another platform when you're using Unreal Engine or something similar.
Yep, I think so too. And I read this online that there was something that people were saying. I remember because of the texture issue in the remake
Mhm.
on the PS4, they were saying that it was built with Unreal Engine 3, or was it Unreal Engine 4 and then 5 is coming out? Anyway, apparently
Yeah, 4 and 5 is coming out, yeah.
it's easier to like port those for the new engine. So
Mhm.
they said like that's all I know is that it's a lot easier because you don't have to go back and like basically make everything from the ground up. You can just like port it over and it's a lot more easier to do that.
Mm.
So it could, like you said, it could be a breeze, right? Like it could be with the new engine, it's just like a few clicks and you're like, oh, here we go. You know, it's just done and that's that. They don't have to really spend that much money on actually creating it from the ground up, I guess. To run on the Switch would obviously cost a lot more money to be able to do that. All right, guys, so that brings us to our next part of the episode. This is our special Ask Anything episode. So on our Twitter account, we reached out to you, the Final Fantasy VII Remake podcast community, for you guys to submit your questions for us to answer. And honestly, they could have been about anything at all. So here are the questions that we got, starting with number 1. This question is from The Real Kutakuma. So pick one weapon, one outfit, one hairstyle, and one ability from the entire Final Fantasy franchise. Extra challenge: they all can't be from the same game. Okay, so for me, I love Terra's hair from Final Fantasy VI. I just love the green, like that mint green color. And I'm not necessarily basing it on the style. I think it's super cute. And also, the same thing when she kind of transforms into an Esper as
right, the
well.
pink hair then, yeah.
Her hair kind of goes like a white with a purple, which I think was so cool. So that's my favorite one. Basically, I know that there's a lot of cool hairstyles across the series, but that one to me is just most of the characters' hair in 6, their hair is blonde, like most of the characters. So anyway, I just thought that was a cool way to change, for them to switch it up. Like her hair is mint green, which I love. Pick one outfit. This was really hard, but honestly, Final Fantasy XIII Lightning Returns had garbs, which were outfits for Lightning, and each outfit gave you different stats and had different abilities that were unlocked when you used her in battle. They did an amazing job designing all of these. I thought that they were incredible, and I love the dragon one, which is a purple suit of armor, and also there's one called Dark Knight. It's like a black shiny suit of armor. It looks like it has horns on it. And then they also did release the Final Fantasy VII related garbs as well. So they had Aerith's outfit for Lightning and also Cloud's soldier outfit for Lightning as well, which I thought was super awesome because at the time I just wanted any Final Fantasy VII content. This was way before like Remake was released, right? So I just thought they were so well done. Those were my favorite outfits. And so for my special ability, I did pick Army of One from Final Fantasy 13. I know Final Fantasy 13 is highly underrated, people. Like, you need to play this game. It's really good. The story's a little convoluted. A lot of it is buried in data logs, but if you take time to read it, it's super interesting. Like, it's a really well done JRPG. And Army of One is her ultimate ability, Lightning's, and I think that it's so cool because it was on the PS3, and it was like the first time where it was like the ATB bar would just go to all the way up, and then you like use that ability, and it's just like it's like a cutscene.
Yeah,
you know
it
what I mean?
is,
She's just like zipping around, and it shows like her face like really close up, and she's like holding her, sword, and she's just like slashing them around in slow motion, and it's just so cool. I love that ability. So that's, I think, my favorite ability across all the Final Fantasies. And I know I picked 2 from 13, but it's different games. Lightning Returns and Final Fantasy 13 are 2 different games. Okay.
What's your weapon?
My pick one weapon. Oh my God. Honestly, I'm gonna say nail bat.
Nail bat.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say nail bat. I'm just gonna say it. I think it's so cool. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that is a weapon, but there are like these insane nail bat builds out there where people just use nail bat the entire game and and they just like use it as damage output, right? Like, and that's what they used for the whole game. And there's like playthroughs where they show that on YouTube, people playing through the game with nail bat only, and I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? Anyway, I think that's so cool. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous, and I love it. I just love that there's a bat with nails in it, and you're literally destroying, monsters and enemies with it, and yeah. So, what about you?
Okay, so I didn't go for style or really coolness or something. I went for functionality.
Nice.
So first off, Barrett's missing score loaded up with 8 maxed out Knights of the Round.
Oh my God.
Because that's, I think, the most amount of AP you can get for the missing score, and the missing score's damage is based on the AP on the equipped materia. This is very strong. Okay, then we can just gobble, chuck down a few hero drinks and then get super strong. But then, probably a bit controversial, but the exosuits from Final Fantasy 15, because you can activate no damage whatsoever for, I think, 30 minutes or an hour.
Nice.
And then for the rest of the day, this ability is gone. But I think it's in-game. The in-game day-night cycle system, I think. Or actual time? I don't remember. Yeah, it's they look super weird, campy a little bit, but
yeah,
it's
I remember
functional.
when they were released and people saw screenshots and they were like, "Oh, it's like Power Rangers or something."
But I think they had to change it a little bit because they were really too close to the new Power Ranger suits in the movie.
Yeah. I think I used it. I think I used them a few times against some really hard bosses.
Yeah. They're kind of cheater outfits, but whatever.
Yeah, but they were, when you got to the lower depths of the dungeons, like the what's the name of anyway, I forget, but I haven't played it so long ago, but there's a dungeon it has so many levels. It's like the last one, not Pitios, but there's one before that. You have a bunch that you have to do, like so many levels. Is really difficult.
with the kind of a cube pushing maze, with a red giant in one room.
Anyway, I use those because I was like, I don't care if I'm cheating for 30 minutes. Like, take no damage for 30 minutes. Yes, thank you very much.
All right, then hairstyle, because it doesn't matter underneath the exosuit. Balthier's hairstyle, it's short, it looks cool, and doesn't get destroyed by the helmet.
I love it.
All right. And then for the ability, because we're about damage output, it's Final Fantasy X-2's Gunner's Trigger Happy on level 3. Because when you're really fast with the R1 trigger, and because Barrett's missing score will load up with all Knights of the Round and hero drinks, is really, really strong. So max damage or maybe even overflow damage with each hit. So it's complete mayhem.
Yeah, I can imagine. I remember that, like casting Knights of the Round, and I just like go get a snack and come back and it's still going.
Okay, yeah, if you cast Knights of the Round, yeah.
Yeah, and there was like other things you could use as well, so it repeats like multiple times, right? Like multicast or whatever, so...
W summon, I think, but quad magic didn't work, I think. Something like that, yeah. Yeah,
I'm surprised that you didn't say Rude's hairstyle because he's like doesn't have any hair.
Right. I could have gone with that. That's true. But Rude is also Final Fantasy VII.
You are basically just Rude in the living flesh.
Yeah, true. Also, it's not a Final Fantasy title, so I could go for the extra challenge. That's
Yeah,
why.
exactly.
And FFVIIR is the main hero of the story, as he
Yeah.
always says, the main character, protagonist. So yeah, yeah, that's my choice.
All right. So our next question is, if you wanted to learn about any type of mythology or lore that appears in Final Fantasy VII, what would it be? And this is from MJ Gallagher.
Who else?
Right?
Perfect for him.
Thanks, Mo, for this one. I think that for me, I know that obviously, like, his novel is Norse mythology. So
Mm-hmm.
I said possibly a connection to Greek mythology. Greek mythology is my favorite mythology. And I was kind of thinking in my head, like, after we got this question, I was just thinking if there was a way to be able to make a connection there, with all the different gods and demigods and how we've got like Hercules and Zeus and you know what I mean? And how like Sephiroth is kind of a demigod, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's been infused with Genova cells and he's like, super powerful, but he's still human, it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
a demigod. And I was like, that would be interesting if there was a connection there or you can make a connection there. For lore, I was thinking also just, more lore about the Cetra and Genova and the ancients. We're just kind of told things in passing throughout the story, and it doesn't really go into depth. And we're not, there's nothing for us to read, even just, letters or just documents or something that we pick up, even though I understand you want to be told these things in the story and you want to, like, you don't want to be just reading data logs like the entire time. But
Mm,
um,
definitely.
it would be cool if, like we had already said, if there was a prequel game that focused on this eventually, or some kind of just more lore there, because there's so much of the unknown that we don't know that I think is super intriguing and would be super interesting to know. And what about you, Viz? What did you think?
Yeah, it's about the same, also Genoa and etc., but also with a focus on the weapons, creation of the weapons, and the summons, which all happened
Mm-hmm.
there. And now I just had an idea. What if we play, if this was like this hypothetical prequel game or like Genova game, etc. game? What if we play as summons, like as Shiva and Ifrit and
Oh
whoever,
my
and
gosh, that
then
would be
take
so
place
cool.
in the battle against Genova and stuff? Yeah. Because apparently, as we've learned from the remake, Shiva was or is responsible for the whole North continent being cast in ice.
Yeah.
In the enemy intel, it says something
Mm-hmm.
like this. I don't remember the exact words, but something like that. And
That would be so cool.
some I don't remember who said that, but someone I think it was in some other podcast. I really can't remember. Like the reason why Genova looks or has this female body is
Mm-hmm.
because Shiva was the last one to take out Genova or seal away Genova, and Genova was about to like take over Shiva or morph
Oh,
into Shiva or something like that.
that's interesting. I did not know that.
Kind of in this direction. This would also be pretty cool, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe to try it, or maybe Shiva was or kind of managed to subdue Shiva and then tried to like act as Shiva, and then with this deception, yeah, get rid of the whole Cetra.
That would be so cool.
But then Shiva comes back in with the help of whoever, and then they just go ham on Genova and seal her away. I don't know, just something like that. And the weapons, we only know, yeah, the planet created the weapons, but they were needed in the end. And Crisis Core kind of established that with the help of Sleepy's analysis and theory crafting that they're all kind of summons because of the red core they all share.
Mm-hmm.
And Minerva apparently is also something like that. And I think in one of Crisis Core's, not really an Ultimania, but something like that, just some official book about Crisis Core says that Minerva is I don't remember the exact words, but it's something like Minerva is kind of the boss over live stream or watches
Okay.
over the live stream, but still does what the planet tells her to.
Okay.
Kind of like the planet's avatar or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like that, yeah. And maybe
Yeah, I
she
was
was
gonna say
responsible
guardian,
for,
or
yeah, Guardian.
that's kind of how
And
like what lightning ends up being at the end. Like she's
oh
the
right, yes,
keeper
yes.
of, I forget what it's called now, but she ends up
I forget
turning
too, yeah.
into Etros, which was like
Mm,
she was the guardian of all things, right? Like, and then
mm.
that's where she reigned over, and I think that's where you start in Final Fantasy 13 to you see. Anyways,
Kind of in the beginning in 13.2, she becomes the new guardian of Etro or champion of Etro, right? The
yes,
champion of
exactly.
Etro. And I think I'm not sure if Etro is already dead by
I think
then.
so.
I think
Yeah,
so, yeah. Or at least not within a realm of existence or something.
yeah.
And by the end, she is kind of the ultimate goddess that creates the world anew with the help
Hmm.
of her
And
friends
harvesting
after
all the
this. Yeah,
souls and helping them move to the new worlds, right? Because they
exactly.
need
Yeah,
to.
something like that. Exactly. Yeah. Which kind of ties into a theory I have about the future of the remake, but that's for another video.
Yeah, and this was
Yeah.
also about, like, when I was talking about Final Fantasy X potentially having a connection with Final
Yeah.
Fantasy VII. So on Twitter, I made a comment and
Oh, right. Yeah.
just joking, like, comment, and people like started posting links to thelivestream.net, which was awesome. So I'm familiar with those and I read through those, but somebody had stated that it's people were just saying that essentially like everything was destroyed on Spira, like the planet was just destroyed, and then they had to move, like the far plane, everything eventually becomes like the live
Yes.
stream in Final Fantasy VII, essentially, like, and
Mm.
the weapons like transport everything there, and it's just some crazy theories, man. Like when you read that, you're like, what? Anyway,
Yeah, I bet.
super interesting.
Mm, it is. All right, something else about natural materia, like a bit more about materia and why and how
Hmm.
it is created, or it appears, and how it's like harvested and used. We get a glimpse of that in the original, where Sephiroth tells the group in the Nibelheim flashback that there are natural sources,
Right.
like this weird tree trunk or something like that,
Oh,
which died, and from there, or kind of a spring, some more materia spring of sorts.
okay, cool.
Is there well while they're going through Mount Nebel, like after they fall down when the bridge gives
Oh,
away.
right, yeah.
It's there. There's not much other than that, and we also get to pick up material elsewhere around the world, and mostly it's also where you would kind of expect material to be, especially in the northern crater or northern cave, like the last dungeon. There are a few parts where it makes sense that there would be
Hmm.
naturally created materia. Also, maybe huge materia, natural huge materia, not by reactors, but natural. Like kind of expand on this
Hmm.
old, this like where everything comes from, etc. Materia, weapons, summons, like just the source of everything,
That would be
as
cool.
Aerith says. Yeah.
All right, guys, so moving on to the next question. It says, with the reveal of Ever Crisis, would you rather have a Crisis Core remake or a new game based on Zack? And this was Geeks World Gaming. So for me, we talked a lot about this at the beginning of the episode.
Hmm.
I We don't know what Ever Crisis is, so like, we're just assuming that it is a game. If it is a game, I think it would be cool if it was before Crisis and Crisis Core bundled together and retold in more in depth, and like potentially with events that don't happen exactly the same as the originals to fit into what they're trying to go with the remake. And the subsequent parts of the remake and the story they're trying to tell, which is obviously there's something going on, like a time loop. Aerith is going back through time. It continues over and over again. I'm not sure what they would be able to do, but I would be super interested in that because we didn't get Before Crisis here in North America, right? It was a mobile game. I don't want a one-to-one remake of Crisis Core, but I would be down for something like the Crisis Core and Before Crisis bundled together, getting the remake treatment like we got for part 1 of the remake. That's what I think. I'm down for an absolutely new game based on Zack. I just don't know if we're going to get a Zack only game.
Yeah.
Of the events that happen after the end of Remake and what we see, spoiler alert, at the end of Remake where he's alive and he's helping Cloud. Like, I just don't see them releasing a game based solely on, okay, what are the events that happen after the end in that timeline of Zack being alive now and everything that he does between then and the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake. I just don't see that happening. I just don't see it. Do you? Like, what do you think?
I don't think so. Not a completely separate game. I don't think so. It would be too detached and too focused on just one character. It makes more sense, as we discussed before, to like interject Zack's side. Like what?
Yes.
Yeah. What happens on the other side? Because it seems that the planet has plans with Zack, kind of like a failsafe, since the Whispers are no more, that there's someone else, another agent that the planet has to kind of make sure that Sephiroth doesn't reach his goal if the group fails or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to add that I usually prefer a new game because that's a new experience. Usually new gameplay elements, so just something new to experience, not just retreading the same paths and footprints again and again and again.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know we didn't get to play officially the Before Crisis game, which is a shame. And Crisis Core is so far only available on the PSP, which is hard to get nowadays. But for that, I must say, emulators exist, but still, would be cool. But in the end, new games take the cake in my book.
All right, so our next question comes from JohnRon2000. So, do you subscribe to Seph and Aerith are influencing the past theory? The theory that everything must be repeating but with variations? The theory that there are parallel timelines only linked by the Whispers, or something else entirely? You can go first.
Well, just watch our latest Aerith Secrets analysis video, and then you know what I think.
Hop on over to our YouTube channel, Cosmo Canyon Observatory, and don't forget to hit the notification bell at the bottom of the video.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, I talked about it too long, didn't watch summary. So if there's some parallel, it is between the reality and live stream memory. And there's also a kind of an argument to be made that there might be something parallel going on between the pure live stream or the uncorrupted live stream and the corrupted live stream. There's something I will incorporate into future videos. But like general time travel, no. Usual like multiverse and parallel timelines, like normal time travel movies, no. They influence the past, yes. Like within like the live streams past memories, yes. Repeating but with variations, yes. It's also part of the Aerith Secrets theory video with that she goes back to change things multiple times. Because, yeah, she just can't just go back and start journey and then make errors and being reset by the whispers, and then, okay, well, didn't work out, let's go home. Nope. She tries again,
Yeah.
tries again, tries again. Yeah. But I I go into detail, or at least Kutakuma goes into detail, because he's our new voice
Yeah.
of the CCO in the video. I think that's about it, yeah.
I've already stated for me, I think that like what you said, you're hinting at like a time loop or something. I am
Mhm.
definitely subscribing to that idea. I don't know if there's parallel timelines. I I just don't know. Like I'm not able to kind of make that conclusion. I thought that in the beginning, but now that we talked about it more, I'm starting to think no, like it might be an
Same.
infinite loop, or like the other idea that you brought up was that this like remake is just happening in the live stream as a memory.
Yep,
It's not even real Midgar. It's a memory,
exactly.
and there's something that's happening that Sephiroth needs something from this memory. I don't know. Ugh, like my brain is hurting trying
Yeah.
to figure this out because there's no figuring it out, right? Like it's kind of like when you think about our universe, like as human beings, and we live on
Mhm.
a planet that's like floating through nothingness, and how that is like how does that exist? It's like that. What is it called? Is it like an existential crisis when
Yeah, when
you just don't
exactly.
even know how you exist, like how we're the only ones on this
How,
planet alive,
why,
and how
where
like
it goes.
why,
Yeah.
where are we going, what is the purpose of all things. Like that's how I
Yeah.
feel about talking about this, because I just
Kind of,
don't
yeah.
know, and I feel like my brain is just I just can't, I don't even know, like because we don't know, and it could be anything. I just can't wait to see what it is. I just
Yeah.
can't wait to see what it is, because I feel like our minds are just going to be absolutely blown, even more than they are right now. Fingers
Mhm.
crossed, maybe, Square Enix fails and crashes and burns like
Let's hope not,
terribly, and
but
it's just so ridiculous and it's terrible. I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know, but I'm just looking forward to finding out what it is. So I'm subscribing to like all the theories right now. I just don't know the parallel timeline. I thought that in the beginning, but I don't think that anymore. Yeah.
Well, I think you just haven't gotten Nomura yet. You
Oh
need,
God,
yeah, like
that
in
sounds painful.
yeah, like in when Kingdom Hearts 3 wasn't out yet and the trailers came out, especially the one where you saw Aqua with the yellow eyes. Oh, she got Norded! Ah! And all the fans go, ah! It's kind of, you need to be Nomura at first, because otherwise you can't get into the headspace of the
It could be
theories, of
anything
the
though. We know,
realities. Yeah,
like
it could
we
be,
all
yeah.
know Nomura. Okay, it could be literally anything. It could be
Yep,
anything. Like the guy wanted Final Fantasy 13 versus 13 to be a musical.
yep.
Like he
That's,
wanted it to be a musical,
yeah.
a video game that was a musical. It could be anything, guys. Like come on. Who knows? Who
Well,
knows?
we kind of had something like this. It wasn't really a musical, but cloud dancing. Come on. Nobody could have predicted that. Nobody.
Oh my God.
It
That
was
was
awesome.
perfect. Oh,
Yep.
oh gosh, it was so good. All right, guys. So moving on to our next question here, from Tyler. So he says, "Why are you both such wonderful individuals?"
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Describe your perfect date. That was his real question.
Yep.
So for me, honestly, just I think hanging out, doing things that we both enjoy, talking about our interests, maybe have a game night. I'm just big into playing video games with other people. I love it.
Hmm.
I love it so much. Just,
It's great. Yeah.
yeah, and it's changed so much. Unfortunately, like, back in the day when we had, like just couch co-op games where we could
Hmm.
play together, and the console had two controllers that plugged in together, you sit on the couch. Like that's where a lot of my memories and bonding with my friends and stuff really took place. And
Same. Yeah.
I really miss that element to it. Obviously, it's still possible with certain games, but I just feel like now everything is more focused on being online, and I do miss that, like
Yeah.
sitting in the same room playing games together. But I do that on occasion, and I think that would be my perfect date. Just like taking turns playing a game and experiencing it together, and
Exactly.
just nerding out is just my dream date. So what about you?
Kind of similar. I think the most important thing is just having a great time together and exchanging experiences,
Hmm.
ideas, kind of to know more about each other. And as you said or alluded to, enjoying cooperative or competitive activities. Could be game, could be like a physical game outdoors, or just
Yes.
running, see who can run the fastest, jump the highest. Doesn't really matter. Just something that you can do together.
Hmm.
And yeah, and hopefully this leads to the desire to meet again
Yeah.
soon, and then spend more time together, learn more about each other,
Hmm.
and then just grow, growing closer, and then it automatically happens. This is kind of the
Yeah.
perfect natural evolution, or not evolution, but creation of a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I obviously, enjoy going to restaurants when we could actually do that before the
Yes.
pandemic and everything, but like that's just part of a very like larger aspect of dating. It's not just
Mm.
that, it's like it's nice to go have drinks and have food together, like nice food, and then talk about things. And then just being
Cook
open,
together.
yeah, go for a walk together,
Hmm.
like
Yep.
take them to your favorite part of your city where you live, like a special place that's special to
Hmm.
you, and show each other those things. And
Yes, exactly.
yeah. All right, so Thou Art John asks us, how did you both meet and come up with the idea to start the podcast? So I was the one that actually reached out to Vyzz because I subscribed to your YouTube channel, Vyzz, and I was a fan. I
Hmm.
still am. I still am your fan.
Oh, thank you.
But I was following a lot of Final Fantasy VII Remake content creators on YouTube years before the game came out, obviously, and I was super motivated to like I thought that I wanted to create a podcast exclusively about Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy VII because there wasn't one at the time. And I thought that, I love this game. It's my all-time favorite game. And I just wanted to sit down and chat with other people that, are as, what is the adjective I'm trying to say?
Enthusiastic, maybe?
Yeah,
I
like
don't
to
know.
talk to other people who are just as enthusiastic as I am about this game and love it and cherish it. And, to really just kind of shed a light also on like content creators in this universe in the Final Fantasy VII community, and also like take part in it and kind of give my own kind of take on things, and just have, what I mean, like create my own content as well. But it's a different medium, like we described on our first few episodes, where it's audio only.
Hmm.
um a lot of people just listen to podcasts. They don't, watch YouTube videos of podcasts, but it's nice that it's a different medium, so we can reach, a different kind of audience as well, because there are people out there that don't have time to watch YouTube and don't have time to, you know, kind of look for different things to, that they have interest in video games, basically, like other than a few things, you know what I mean? People are busy and that sort of thing. So I thought it would be a good idea to kind of to create something in a different medium like a podcast. And obviously I reached out
Hmm.
to Vyzz on Reddit, and you actually I reached out to you on Facebook first, but your Facebook account, you were like, oh sorry, and then I reached out to you on Reddit actually after, because I wrote you and you didn't write me back. So then I was like, oh god, like who am I? Like I don't have a YouTube channel. I don't have like these things that you have. And I thought about it for a while before reaching out to you to see. I'm like, well, he's going to be like, who is this person? um but then finally I just did it on Reddit, and you're super receptive and open and was like, yeah, I think that would be great. And pretty much we started, and the rest is history. So there
Hmm.
you go.
And it's also very interesting that we share, or we have a lot in common.
Hmm.
Like just not quite the looks, but kind of this rude,
Yeah.
like the Final Fantasy VII rude, not the rude, the adjective.
Yes,
Rude
exactly.
appearance, kind of, or we can be, and interest in music,
Yeah.
and in games, in Final Fantasy, in kind of how we approach things a little bit
Mm-hmm.
too. So
Yep.
it's, yeah, not quite a match made in heaven, but close.
I don't know if it is. It's pretty close. It's pretty close.
Pretty close, yeah. A match made in the live stream.
Oh, wow. Now you're onto something.
Ah.
Wow. All right, guys. So moving on to our next question here. And it says, if you could choose Final Fantasy VII Remake as a completely different genre, for example, roguelike, Metroidvania, first-person RPG, etc., what would you like to see? So, and this question is from Pim Vanderwell. Okay, so for me, I said this in a previous episode. I think that creating a MOBA that is just as good as Dota 2 would be amazing. And if they're able to do that with Final Fantasy VII, like Final Fantasy VII Remake or Final Fantasy VII, like in general, that would be so cool. I think it's possible if they open it up and they just do a general Final Fantasy MOBA, like
That would be
across the
cool, yeah.
board, and you're controlling the characters. It's a bird's eye view of the characters, kind of like Heroes of the Storm, but better. So more complex, more rewarding, like if you understand the items, and the items are like weapons from specific characters in this series, and you can choose, your hero. You have an ultimate ability. I think it's so doable. And it's just a map, and the map can change. It could be like the map is Shinra HQ, but
Or
it's like
slums.
you have to go to, like, you're battling in Shinra HQ one side to the other, like, and you're maybe something, I'm not sure, trying to think of top of my head, but in Dota, it's like you're destroying, it's like the crystal, right? Like you have the fountain, like you destroy that part of your enemy's base, then you win. So they'd have to take it, like maybe it's a crystal, maybe it's a reactor, like maybe it's something. Anyway, I think that would be so cool. And I know that they have like a card game as well, but I would be so down for a digital version of a card game like Hearthstone, but Final Fantasy. And I know that they have Triple Triad. I know there's Triple Triad, but I mean like not just Triple Triad, like an actual all over like Final Fantasy card game that's like Hearthstone.
There is already a Final Fantasy card collector's card game, kind of. I never bought cards myself, but
Yes.
I'm not quite sure how it works. I
Same.
haven't
I know that
watched it
there are
yet.
cards. Like I'm pretty sure. Yeah, like you said, there's definitely a card game, but I just would like to see it, a digital version of it, like Hearthstone, where you have expansions and it's kind of like Magic the Gathering,
Right,
but
right,
in
yeah.
Hearthstone maybe, but it's on an app on your phone. That would be so cool. I'm so into that. I was really into Hearthstone, and I bought expansions and I spent money on decks and blah blah. And I got really into it. I haven't played it in a while, to be honest with you, like years, because there was just so many expansions. It was a lot, and I was spending too much money on it, and I had to stop. And it's like one of those games that never ends. But I would be down
Yeah.
for a Final Fantasy one. I would be down. I would be super interested in that. Absolutely. If they did like a digital version that they really fleshed it out, and I think that would be so cool.
So the first thought is point and click adventure, mostly because this is a genre that is dying. There's not many around. Like, yeah, there's The Walking Dead and Life is Strange, and I think others, but this is not quite the same.
Yeah.
Like, those old school point and click adventures were really cool. Like, sometimes they really incorporated so many difficult puzzles, and you had to think about a lot of things. Like, how do I achieve this? How do I get inside there? How do I solve this puzzle? And you had to combine different items. Like Monkey's Island was one. I think there are so many.
Yeah.
Days of the Tentacle. What else? There are a lot. There are also more recent ones, like some indie titles, like Deponia something. They already have, I think, 4 games. Um, there's another one from Germany. I forgot the name of. Oh, right. There's also Franbo. Franbo.
Okay.
Maybe you've heard of it. It's also pretty cool one, which a lot of notable YouTubers played. It has a really good story, really good art style too. But it's more in the indie industry, but not AAA, and kind of like a AAA spin on a point and click adventure, if this is even possible, would be really cool. And I think it would work with Final Fantasy VII because it is mostly focused on story and characters and lore,
Yeah.
and also mini games and some riddles and stuff. And the battle system, while it's cool and materia and everything, but it's not the core of the game, I think. So it could work in that way, and you could use materia for riddles, puzzles, maybe even some very rudimentary fights occasionally, like in Indiana Jones. Like the third movie got a point-and-click adventure, and there was a new exclusive
Right.
story. I think how was it called again? I forget how it's called. But you also had a few battles. Like you had, I think, a high, middle, and low punch, or something like that, and you had to like punch the enemy where he wasn't or she wasn't blocking. You could also block up, middle, and lower. But there was also the insert key you could press, and then Indy just wound up like for a second, then just a knockout punch every time. This was like a
Right.
cheater punch for those who didn't want to or couldn't do the fights. Kind of like that. I wouldn't even mind if it was kind of a pixel art style or something.
Oh, that would be so cool. Yeah.
Just point and click adventure.
Yeah. I love Octopath Traveler's style, by the way, and I would love to see it potentially be like a pixel art kind of like RPG like that with 3D depth to it. That was super cool. I thought it was a really great game on the Switch. I loved it. And as you were talking about point and click adventure, I was just thinking also Diablo series. So potentially having, if not maybe a MOBA, instead you are playing Remake, but as like a top-down RPG, like Diablo, right? So you have to infiltrate the Shinra headquarters, but it's top down. So like you're fighting and you're shooting or whatever, like fighting against the Shinra, soldiers or Shinra grunts or whatever, and they're small, like they're, you know what I mean? When you're looking down, right? Like in Diablo. That would be so cool. I think it would give it a completely different vibe.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Maybe Ever Crisis is such a game.
Oh my god, that would be so cool. Like Diablo, like a top-down like RPG, but it could also be like a top-down like strategy game. Yeah. Like what is it called? There's a new strategy game based on that. It's a Microsoft series for Gears of War. There's Gears of War Tactics, actually, that was released, and I tried it. I played it because I had Xbox Game Pass for PC because I have a gaming PC. So I did the trial. It was like, I think $1 for 3 months or something like that, just to try it. And I kind of got into it. It was quite good, actually, and that would be awesome. I could see them doing something like that, absolutely. And when was the last tactics game that we got, like a spin-off tactics game like that? Like I don't remember, like none. Like we haven't gotten any for any of the series in such a long time. So yeah.
War of the Lions and
War
of the Lions
you're right.
A2 or something like that was DS, I think, or a Vita. I don't remember. Just a handheld.
Imagine that would be cool. All right, so moving on to our next question. Was there a singular moment, event, character that made you fall in love with Final Fantasy VII? And if so, what was it? And this is from Peeps Nibbles or Joe. Thank you so much, Joe. So for me, it means so much to me now because of like how like what I was doing at the time, what I was experiencing, where I was in my life. It's just like a combination of things, right? So I was young when I first tried it out. I didn't know what game it actually was because I didn't have a PlayStation. I only had Nintendo consoles. So it was like a special game that I played with my friends when I would have sleepovers at their house, or I would go to their house after school and they would be playing it. I would be watching them and trying it. And I thought it was super cool. But then like I said before, I didn't actually know what game it was. Like I didn't understand that I guess that it was actually an RPG and what that was because I was so busy playing platformers on my Nintendo console. So,
Yep.
like and yes, they had like Mario RPG and I played that when it first came out, but it was too hard for me. Like I was just really bad at it and I just didn't really enjoy it, but Final Fantasy VII was like I love the story, I love the characters. I love the fact that the story was not afraid to go there, like it was
Mm.
pushing the boundaries for its time, like cross dressing, was not
Yeah.
basically socially acceptable or
Eco-terrorist.
something that we would talk about at that time, like I'm sure some people were, I lived in a rural community. I didn't live in a city where most of these things are more accepted and that sort of thing. And, it kind of made me feel more accepted in my own world, let alone, like just playing through it with a friend and then
Mm.
experiencing that with them was something special. And, just there's so much. I love the darkness of the story. I love that it's just, pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable in society. And it really went there and it wasn't afraid to do it. But
Mm.
also, what do we say? Like quirky, I guess, super quirky. The story was weird. Things happened like that were
Light-hearted
kind
at
of
times, yeah.
like kind of made you laugh, but also
Mm.
uncomfortably laugh too. Like, what just happened? Like, you know what I mean? Like cringy moments, I guess that's what we call it now. Cringy
Mm.
stories. So quirky is what we called it back in the day when I was a kid. So that was like, decades ago. So y'all, you call it cringy now. I'm really dating myself here now. But yeah,
Yeah.
so anyway, just and the music for me, like I don't know. I think that it's probably the best Final Fantasy soundtrack out of all of them. I love all the music in all the Final Fantasies. But for me, it's just really spoke to me. But of course, I was going through things in my life and that's, it was like my escape as well. So it just has a special place in my heart and it's just my favorite. And I can't really pick one character or one moment, because there were so many. So
Mm.
like the characters mean so much to me and I resonated with all the characters because a lot of them have flawed backgrounds. They have things that happen to them, you know, that affects who they become in the story, like as characters, like Tifa's dad dying and, how she bounced back from that. And now she, has a bar and she's like fighting for what she believes in with her best friends. And um, anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's kind of similar with me because I just wasn't able to pinpoint a singular moment, event, or character that's actually made me fall in love with the game. I think it's more the game itself because, like you, at the time I was only playing platformers on Nintendo consoles and Rayman on PlayStation 2. Not
Nice.
PlayStation 2, but PlayStation, comma 2, TOO. I played those Disney platformers like
Hmm.
Aladdin and Lion
Yep.
King a lot. I played Rayman on the PC and on the first PlayStation a lot. And the NASCAR 98 game I played a lot with friends too, like racing games. But RPGs, this genre was completely alien to me. Maybe a few action adventures too. I think I played the first Tomb. No, I don't think I played Tomb Raider before. I played Tomb Raider after because I had the choice between Tomb Raider and Final Fantasy VII, and I chose Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, you can listen to our very first episode where we talk about
Hmm.
our beginnings. Um, since it was so novel, I had no idea what to expect, what this was, what this ATB was. Oh, hey, I cannot press anything. I have to wait until I'm hit, and then until the bar is up, and then I can select the attack. And it the character attacks on its own, and not I press X and he attacks.
Mm-hmm.
It was so weird, but then it's so intricate. It has a battle system where you can run around, you can talk to people, you can
Mm-hmm.
it has mini games. You can pick up items all around the place. You have a menu system, a material system, equipment, and especially the characters, the lovely characters, those interactions, and every character was completely different. They had their own backstory and story itself, lore, and it was just a completely new world
Mm-hmm.
for me. And I think this feeling, this novelty, was what captivated me,
Yeah.
because it's so difficult to choose a character or choose an event. Maybe it would have been Aerith's death,
Mm-hmm.
but this was spoiled to me by a strategy guide. I already talked about this
Oh
in
yeah.
probably the first episode. I don't remember. Um, yeah, it's weird, and it's also doing the game a disservice to choose something,
Yeah.
a specific thing that like made me fall in love with it. Then I'd have to admit that I love the game because of this specific thing, and which is not true. I love the
Mm-hmm.
entirety of the game for what it is, for its faults and both of faults and what it does right, like
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yeah, I
And
agree
I
with
think
you.
it's I think this is also the reason why this part 7, or the seventh game, is the one that's in the hearts of the most people, because it was I think the first that
Mm-hmm.
got like wide uh, um, kind of publicity and was in the consciousness of many people, and it had groundbreaking graphics at the time. It was
Yeah.
on the PlayStation, which was the new thing, and yeah, it brought in so many people.
I just remember cutscenes were like videos, but they didn't call
Yeah,
it
exactly.
cutscenes. It was just like my friends were like, "I got a PlayStation and it plays movies like in the
Yeah.
middle of a game," and it wasn't
Yeah.
called a cutscene. There was no term for it. And I was like, "What do you mean a movie in the middle of a game? Like, why would I want to see a movie like in the middle of a game? I'm like, my Nintendo console is fine, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there was no cutscenes. That's the thing." And then I saw it for the first time, and it was with Final Fantasy VII, and I was like,
Mm, true.
oh my god.
Also,
Even though it was like pre-rendered and then put in as a video.
yeah,
So
for
obviously the
sure.
console just plays a video file
Mm.
at that time when you're playing it, but I never knew that. I just thought that I was like, this was the most incredible thing that I've ever seen. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. And that changed games forever. I mean, look, they still put cutscenes in games to this day, and how many years are we in the future now from when the game came out? Like, it's just groundbreaking for its time. And
I think one thing, you're scratching certain itch here, because even in the first hour of gameplay, not even hour, maybe 30 minutes,
mm-hmm.
you have this opening cinematic, and it seamlessly transitions into gameplay.
Yes,
And
exactly.
then you have like 5 minutes later this seamless transition to this camera angle where Cloud kind of awkwardly moves around the screen, but the camera moves in a way that you see up the Mako reactor, this huge thing you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
infiltrate now, which they, in my opinion, perfectly replicated in the remake. It was so awesome.
Yeah.
This part. I think subconsciously this was something novel, something that was really, really great. Like this cinematic experience in this very limited technology still. Pre-rendered backgrounds with some low poly
Yeah.
3D meshes running around the place. I think it was the seamless transitions for some, and the cinematic qualities of many of those, especially also when you run away from the soldiers, or from the grunts or the infantrymen. When Cloud jumps onto the train, this is also
Mm-hmm.
pretty seamless. It's just so good. I think it was this novelty, this like so many new things. Not just, oh, it's an RPG. Oh, it has different graphics. Oh, it has pre-rendered backgrounds. Oh, it has movies in it. It was everything.
It was
Everything was
everything.
new,
And the music.
completely. Yes, oh, for sure, the music. Yeah.
Just like everything, it just was,
Yeah.
yeah, it's, yeah. All right, so on to our next question. This question is from Coffee Amankwa. All right, so any unique twists you hope are added to the Final Fantasy VII Remake project, like Tifa dying instead of Aerith? Not that I'm suggesting such a thing, but it's an example. Or a war arc in Wutai. Anyways, keep up the good work on the podcast. Thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
question. We appreciate that. Thanks for supporting us. So, I've talked about this in a previous episode. It could be that I think that they could potentially flesh out the story and go back more into the background of the war in Wutai. And
Hmm.
maybe when they get to Wutai, there are like war apologists or something where people still are angry and they still want to fight and they aren't happy with how things went and they're not happy with Avalanche. And I think you're going to get some pushback from the general public, whether that's NPC or, side quest wise. I'm not sure, but I think that would be, we'd get more lore there and more like story elements from that. And I think that would be super cool. And as for, Tifa dying instead of Aerith, I think that Aerith is definitely going to die. I just don't
Hmm.
know if she's
Yep.
going to die in the same way or if it's going to be that iconic scene. Part of me tells me they're going to keep it exactly the same because otherwise it'll be the outcry of the community and people would be super disappointed and be raging online and potentially like cancel the game because of
Yeah.
it. Or they could change it where it happens, but it happens differently, or it happens at a different time. Because the fact that Aerith, if this is true, what we're talking about, where Aerith is in a time loop, she's going back multiple times. She knows when she dies, she knows how she dies,
Mm.
and I think that she could use that to her advantage where she might cheat
Yeah.
death, but she knows that she has to die, or the story doesn't continue the way that we know and doesn't end the way that we know, even though the ending
Hmm.
of the remake we don't actually know how it's gonna end, even though yes we know how the OG ends, but it could be where the iconic scene is different and she doesn't die exactly. It could be where they show it where it does she does like everybody thinks that she's gonna die, but she
Hmm.
doesn't. She ends up living, but it does show exactly what happens where she get, you know what I mean, like she gets stabbed in the
Hmm.
back. Oh my gosh, like everything, it's so sad and everything, but it could be where she ends up surviving. So we go through the whole thing and then we find out later maybe she survived. I don't know. Anyways, I think they're going to play with us a little bit, and I think
For
that they're not
sure.
going to give us a one-to-one experience for that scene because they don't want the game to be the exact copy of the original. So who knows what they're going to do. I
Mm.
don't see I don't see Tifa dying instead of Aerith.
No.
I don't know why. I just don't see that. I don't see like another character dying so another one lives, or I don't know. I don't think so. I think
It
then
also
you'll
would.
have Tifa fans raging. Like no matter
Yeah.
what, everybody's gonna rage. It's not gonna
Yeah,
be
for
exactly
sure.
what
That's
people
true.
want anyway. It doesn't matter what they
That's a
do.
given.
It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what they do. People are gonna rage. People are gonna hate it. People are gonna love it. Who knows? I'm open to anything at this point. I just want the next part right now. I just want to play it. That's it. That's it for me. But what do you think?
My only problem with Tifa dying is this would change the story rather drastically, I guess.
Yeah.
Because if you just switch those around and the story goes more or less the same, it would kind of be a complete disservice to the characters and the story itself, because then it doesn't really matter what you do, it plays out the same and it's just everyone is interchangeable, and this doesn't really work for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't see this happening. But there are other things. Like you said, an extended Wutai arc, which isn't really a twist in itself, but maybe there's something like in the original we only see Wutai after the war, what it has become. It's a tourist
Mm-hmm.
extraction, nothing more. Yuffie hates her dad because he's given in, and she still wants to fight and bring Wutai back to glory. But if maybe in this whole Wutai and Yuffie arc, something happens. Maybe even Godo, her father, like wakes up and tries to get Wutai
Oh,
back
okay.
back up, and maybe gathers troops, gathers sympathizers, And we also know that Avalanche is still there, like the OG Avalanche, not OG in a sense of the
Hmm.
OG game, but the original Avalanche, which apparently was no more in the original canon. But in this new canon, they somehow survived or are still there. But then, well, I don't quite remember if I guess they are kind of already working together, or at least it seems like that.
Hmm.
At least that's what Biggs tells us, that they apparently promised Wutai all the materia in the world,
Hmm.
stuff like that. So there is something going on, but that Wutai fights back. Like, let's say, I think we talked about this in earlier episodes. I'll keep this brief, but after we get Cloud back and we have the High Wind,
Hmm.
maybe it's optional, maybe it's mandatory, but there could be like an actual full-out war that
Yeah.
Wutai tries to like get its honor back and push back Shinra, or maybe Shinra wants to do more there and actually
Yeah.
get the reactor going, and they fight back, something like that, just to also give Yuffie more of an arc, or a different arc, another one,
Hmm.
and
I
give
like that
Wutai
idea.
more significance.
Yeah. I think this would be
Especially,
a. Sorry.
yeah, especially since the remake makes this to be a bigger thing than it was in the original, because maybe they already wanted to incorporate Wutai in some way, but I think they're setting
Hmm.
something up here.
I think so too. I think this would be a great opportunity as well for maybe a new character introduction, right? From Wu Tai, where it's like a new
Maybe,
character.
yeah.
You know how we got like we got Leslie Kyle, and
Marl,
obviously
Chadley.
so it could be a good opportunity to have a new guest character even, you
Hmm.
know? I mean,
Maybe,
it
yeah.
depends. Obviously we would have Yuffie and we're going through her story, but it could be like her friend. Maybe she has a friend or multiple friends or connections that she, you know, and they fight with us or they give us
Hmm.
intel and then we have to go and I don't know, do something or fight again, like you said, fight against them, or there's like some kind of an uprising, or they're rebels, or you know what I'm saying? I'm just thinking
Hmm.
like a way for them to incorporate like new characters and give more lore and background about how the people of Wutai feel about everything that's
Hmm.
happened and
Exactly.
that sort of thing. And maybe there's an uprising against Yuffie's dad, you know, like you said, maybe they're just
Maybe even that,
upset with
yeah.
how things are being ruled, and maybe they're upset with the war being, you know, morale is low, people don't really believe in, you know, the monarchy anymore and they want to destroy it. It could be that leads into the story where you fight against him or doing the trials or some. I don't know. I'm just like my brain's going here, but who knows?
Yeah, Wutai definitely needs a bigger spotlight
Mm-hmm.
in upcoming parts. And the next thing twist would be, I think it would be pretty cool that they introduce Vincent as a villain at first, or Vincent is
Mm-hmm.
against us for whatever reason. Like, it's not just he's not just sleeping in there and we wake him up and, oh,
Right.
you're going against Hojo. Okay, okay, I'm with you. Not just this
I like that.
uh, blatant, cheap. You have a new character. Well, it was necessary at the time because
Mm-hmm.
Vincent almost got cut, so they included the most important parts, very digested. So he could actually be like more introduced differently,
Absolutely.
and as Nibelheim's nightmare, even maybe that haunts the Nibelheim mansion, or it's said, or maybe there's a story that the Nibelheim mansion is, or the Shinra mansion is haunted, and you see those ghostly
That'd
the
be so
dorky
cool.
faces, the ghostly pumpkins, and all the other weird enemies. And yeah, Vincent is also there, and maybe even a boss battler of sorts.
Yeah.
I don't know, because he had the nightmare theme is something that's strong with Vincent.
Yeah.
Maybe even doesn't. well, this could work because if, let's say, there are 4 parts and part 2 ends at Nibelheim, it could end with Vincent being part of this menace of Nibelheim that is kind of the precursor to maybe another Sephiroth fight or whatever, what have you, which we've theorized before. And he's not, and then at the start of the next game, maybe he is also kind of considered a villain or evil, but then helps us out because maybe something happens. Maybe he realizes that we're also against Hojo or something like that. Or maybe this is introduced at the end, like in the ending cinematic of sorts in this game, and then he becomes a party member at the start of part 3. Kind of like Red 13 was a guest character here, got introduced a little bit, and is probably a party member from the start in part. Kind of like
I
this.
like that idea. And I see it as like a boss battle potentially.
Where he transforms into the Galleon Beast.
Exactly. But you don't know that that's Vincent when you're...
Yeah, for sure.
What is it called? You just encounter this like huge beast.
Or that,
there.
yeah.
And that's good, the boss of the mansion. But it's what's happening is he's maybe potentially like stuck in that form because they've cursed him, or they've done something where he's like stuck there in this form and the mansion is haunted. And that sounds so cool. And I'm thinking like I'm getting like RE2 vibes, you know, like Resident Evil vibes. Like, come on, Square Enix.
Yeah.
Such a well done video game, right? Like, imagine if it was done like similar to that, not a shooter obviously, but just that creepy, you know what I mean? Like,
you have to collect keys. Yeah, you have to collect keys to get into more rooms and discover stuff. And also, they should incorporate Lost Number into the lore, not just an optional boss battle. Really incorporate into the lore. And maybe we encounter Galleon Beast, aka Vincent, first, then he scuttles away. Then further inside, we encounter Lost Number.
Exactly.
And then Vincent helps out.
Yeah, if we defeat Lost Number, then maybe...
Or the curse is lifted. Or...
the curse is lifted, and then we can, like, he says thank you and everything, and then he comes to fight for our cause, you know what I mean? Because maybe that's the guardian that's been placed there to kind of make sure that Vincent doesn't get out. You know, like Lost Number, they give some lore about that character and tie it to, like, Vincent being there, basically.
Maybe even Yin Yang. Because Yin Yang is down there in front of Vincent's coffin. It's I think it's a pretty rare occurrence there, but it's within the room where Vincent's coffin is. I think you can encounter it there, and just outside in those 2 screens, I think it's encounterable. And I need more Yin Yang, not just a random encounter. Shinra Mansion needs more lore, like fleshed out lore, and just more things. Give it to us, Square. All right, then the next point is Rufus potentially helping out the party against Hojo, which is at the end of the Midgar raid. Or maybe even helping out against Sephiroth afterwards, because by that time Shinra is practically done. So there's no real need for Rufus to just be a dick of sorts or what have you. And he, as we know from Advent Children, he survives the blast from Diamond Weapon because of this hatch at the bottom of the office and stuff. So they could play around with that. We see in a cinematic or in a cutscene, we see that apparently Rufus dies because due to the onslaught of Diamond Weapon. But then he suddenly appears because he knows, oh yeah, this is now the bigger threat, Hojo and Sephiroth and stuff, and then he helps out in some sort of fashion. I don't know how. Next is I'm not sure if I talked about this in a previous episode, but Sephiroth could manipulate Cloud in this way or present illusions that Cloud thinks that he kills Aerith, but it's all an illusion. Maybe it's even not Aerith in front of him. It's like a black cloaked person or something like that,
Oh.
and or maybe even double. Like he kills Aerith, or he thinks he kills Aerith. Is shocked, and then the illusion fades, and
Oh
it's
my god.
Tifa who dies. But this is also an illusion, and then he's then completely maybe out of his mind or something. And this could also tie into that they reached the same part, or the
Yeah.
altar in the Forgotten Capital. They see Aerith there, but this is an illusion because maybe Aerith made or was quicker in summoning holy, or did something completely different.
Hmm.
And they all think it's there, it's an illusion, and mass illusion is a thing, as we've learned in the remake. And this could completely screw with everyone. And there could still be a Genoa
Yeah.
fight and everything else, but there's no Aerith burial because there's
Yeah. That would be
black
crazy.
cloaked man or woman.
Yeah, I definitely see that. That's probably gonna happen.
Maybe that. And then at another point, we reconvene. Is this a word with Aerith?
Yes.
Yeah. And we reconvene with Aerith at some other point, wherever. It's hard to say where. And then relief for a little bit, and then comes the actual Aerith kill to take her away for real. And this will mess with everyone to another level. Kind
Yeah.
of something like that. Just mess with Cloud's head, mess with the head of the others, and mess with our meth heads. No, seriously,
Yes.
but there's so much potential to mess with our heads and the
I think so
characters'
too.
heads and everything. And Sephiroth is such a mass manipulator, and he has
Hmm.
now more knowledge apparently, and some much more capability. And yeah, but it's also possible. Another thing that I thought of, that Aerith could potentially not leave the others because she knows what happens, and
Hmm.
then we all go to the Forgotten Capital with also Aerith with us in the team
Yeah.
to protect her, and whatever happens then, maybe then Sephiroth tries to do some other shenanigans with illusions and stuff. There's so much potential to
Yeah.
just flip
Well, in
everything
the
on its head.
original, Cloud is so messed up that he like almost kills Aerith like himself, right? Because he
Yeah,
like
he almost
she's
does. Yeah.
praying and he's
Hmm.
like holding the sword up like he's gonna
Yeah.
do it, but then he talks himself out of it or somehow like
The
comes out of
party
his
members do.
breakdown. Yes,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, the other party members are like shouting at him, right?
Yeah. That's
Maybe
why.
he
That's
goes ahead and
why.
does it because
Yeah.
they are not successful. And
Mhm.
then he thinks that it's her, but it's not. It's an illusion. Maybe it's one of the hooded
Or the figures. Yeah.
yeah, instead, or it's an illusion, Sephiroth. So she
Or
doesn't
complete
actually end up
illusion. Yeah.
dying. She's alive, but she does die in a different way, like later. That would be pretty crazy.
That's also the thing that Sephiroth tries. We also see this in the remake, that he tries to get Cloud kind of away from everyone, or tries to influence him in a way that he does take a distance from the
Yeah.
rest, kind of, and
Hmm.
is more of more aggressive in some instances. Let's say Cloud goes to rescue Aerith alone. There's nothing to stop him.
Yeah.
No one to stop him. And this is probably one of the many plans Sephiroth has. That this is a scenario he could potentially create. That the others are
Yeah.
not there for him, in whichever way. Oh man, the possibilities.
Hmm.
Now there's something else that kind of ties into a theory I have about Sephiroth and the actual ending of the whole remake saga. What if Sephiroth in the end doesn't really want to summon Meteor anymore, but instead is out for Omega? Just think about this. In the original, he wanted to become a god. Just absorb all the live stream and create the
Yeah.
world in his image, become a god. But this is all only on this planet. But in Advent Children, he says he wants to travel the cosmos like his
Mm-hmm.
mother did before him, which means it's dry the planet dry, like absorb everything, but then use the planet as his vessel to travel the cosmos. So, and what does Omega do? Omega absorbs all the pure life stream, which has been filtered by Chaos
Mm-hmm.
before. So Chaos absorbs all the tainted life stream, and Omega absorbs all the pure life stream, and then leaves the planet to travel
Exactly.
the cosmos and give another planet life anew with this pure life stream. And the old shell rots away with the tainted live stream.
Yeah.
That's how I remember it from talks and reading up on Dirge of Cerberus lore. So maybe this is something because Dirge of Cerberus happens after Advent Children. Sephiroth still exists because Cloud still remembers him.
Mm-hmm.
And he learns about all of this because Omega gets summoned there.
Okay.
It's a bit incomplete because I don't think because not the whole live stream has been gathered, of course. It's what the deep ground and Shinra did some shenanigans to trick Omega into appearing. But then it's dead, but it could be created again because Minerva's still there. Genesis is still there. Genesis could be kind of the new, I don't know, vessel for Omega or Chaos or what have
Yeah.
you. Something like that. Just that it's not about the black materia anymore. Maybe it is for a while, but it's not about summoning Meteor in the end.
Yeah.
But Sephiroth still keeps up the charade, the ruse to maybe
Distract everybody.
distract everybody or keep everyone on the path which is needed.
Yeah.
So that he can reach his goal.
Exactly.
This might also be why we've seen Meteor here in the remake already, because it might not be the case anymore. That's also why I think the many pieces have already been set in place here, not just for referencing, but because it happened in the original, it has been presented here, and several things might not happen anymore, or at least not the same. There's still people have also been talking about whether we see the final fight with Cloud and Sephiroth again, which we've seen here at the end of Remake, but with Cloud winning this time, which would be
Okay.
kind of a one-to-one remake, one-to-one retelling of the story. We beat Sephiroth, and then there's this mind battle, and Cloud wins. But I don't think so. I think they have purposefully placed this battle there because it won't happen anymore, because the ending will be completely different. This also makes sense because in an interview they said this scene with Sephiroth at the edge of creation, they had this scene planned for a long time, but they didn't know when it would occur in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So this was something planned. They had this planned for a long time. This was a pivotal moment. So this incorporating this, which was practically one-to-one to the original, even with the camera zooms and camera flashes, it's exactly the same. So I'm pretty sure it leads to something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll talk about the rest in the analysis, which still has to be finished and made.
Yes.
But this is kind of a sneak peek of how
Okay.
this thing might be going.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I think that you are hitting the nail on the head right now with the fact that, this isn't like his all-time goal now. It used to be, but he failed. And I
Yes,
think that he
exactly.
continued to exist in the live stream because of the memories. And we've got a lot of backstory about this in live stream Black and White.
Exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I read through those, and it is super interesting about what they say when he's like, Aerith is in the live stream as well as Sephiroth at the same time, but she knows what he's doing. She knows that he kind of,
he creates this geostigma stuff, and
yes, he
creates
can create
Hadaj.
things like images of himself, right? And he's been doing that because he's using the energy of the live stream to do that, like the
and the negative emotions of people who died. Yeah,
exactly. So, you know, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt that he is pushing us all forward because he wants this event to take place where he can use Omega to become activated just like it did in the original. And the live stream, you know, the planet uses its own defenses, right? And Holy is being casted as well, but Holy wasn't enough. It was like the live stream of the planet actually had to come together with Holy to be able to defeat the meteor. So, you know, it could be that meteor ends up being summoned, and then when the live stream is coming out, he uses Omega to, I don't know, suck in all that power and leave.
Like a double whammy, Meteor and Omega.
So yeah, and Meteor does come and everything is destroyed, but the only people that are left is probably Cloud and Sephiroth in their last battle, and then they're fighting against each other. And like I said, Sephiroth eventually, like you said, he just wants to travel the cosmos, you know, and become a god and recreate a new world in his own vision and become a god, basically. But Cloud defeats him somehow. I'm not sure if it's Cloud ends up having to sacrifice himself by absorbing everything. I don't even know if that's possible, but I kind of went down this rabbit hole in a previous episode.
Yeah, we did.
Talked about how Sephiroth was like Jenova, basically. That's what I said, and I don't even know. Sephiroth is Jenova, and he's the one that landed on the planet so many, like, you know, eons ago, because
I remember you were level 10 theory.
He traveled the cosmos like because he failed, and he was traveling the cosmos as Jenova because Jenova is Sephiroth. That's what I said, because it kind of looks like him. But anyways, yeah.
There's also this one thing that he alludes to. We don't know this in the English translation, but in the Japanese translation, he says, the way he says I, or refers to himself, is the same he did before he went mad. So there's kind of a hint there, and this was also hinted at in one of the Ultimania interviews, I think.
Interesting.
Or another interview that they specifically mentioned this. So this is important. So it could be that with him wanting to use Omega, or the power of Omega, to absorb the pure live stream and go away and discard the negative live stream, that he finally manages to discard Jenova and the influence, so that he can really become himself, become a god, become pure. Because he was an incomplete god in the original. That's why he only had one wing and was defeated. So, yeah.
But if Clouds end up defeating him, but the world is just destroyed, then Cloud essentially becomes a god and recreates the world in his image. And that's how everybody gets to live, because it's their souls and their being in the live stream, but it's only the good live stream.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So, because at the end of, wasn't it Advent Children, at the end, it's like Midgar is overgrown, like everything's destroyed, like there's no humans, there's only like the same species that of Red 13. Like,
yeah, it's the original end, like 500 years later. Yeah.
So who knows? Yeah. But anyways, that's crazy.
It is. Also with the potential, or like your idea of Cloud recreating the world, this would be the ultimate remake. Remake of the world.
Yeah, because Sephiroth is no more. Like, he's destroyed, and he's not in anybody's memories, because there are no memories of him, because it's just the positive, like, what did you say it's called? The live stream.
Yeah, the pure live stream.
The pure live stream. The pure live stream. Yeah, because he's creating the world with only the pure live stream, and there is no negative live stream, and they all live inside of the live stream. It's a new planet. Maybe they've all died because the, you know, Gaia, like the planet's just destroyed, but the good that comes from everything is that there's a new world with no Sephiroth and no evil, and it's just, you know, the pure live stream. And maybe they do come back to life. Like, I don't know, like, what is the limits of this, you know? which is kind of how like Final Fantasy 13 ends, right? Like
Kind
Lightning
of, yeah.
harvests all the
True,
souls,
true.
she sends them through, and then she creates this new world. She's the one who's, but then it's like everybody's okay. Like she's alive. She shakes a train. She sees, like it shows like images of them there living on the new world, but they might not know each other. They might know of a reality where this happened, or they forgot everything. I don't know. Like it's just they don't really go into detail, but it's kind of similar to
No,
that, where
it's
she
it's left
destroys
open.
God,
Yeah.
and then she becomes God and recreates civilization on a new planet. Like she creates a new reality, a new world.
And then she goes to pose for Louis Vuitton.
So maybe not that, but yeah.
Yeah, no, not that. Yeah.
All right, guys. So that concludes our Ask Anything episode. So we hope you enjoyed it. We had a blast sitting here and answering your questions. If you have any ideas for upcoming topics, you can reach us by our email. It's thereunionpodcast@gmail.com. Thereunionpodcast@gmail.com. We also have a Twitter account, and like I said, I've been more active on the Twitter account, like retweeting and sharing things that I find that are super interesting that I think you guys would enjoy. So if you haven't had a chance yet, please follow our Twitter account, and we will be eventually doing some amazing giveaways on our Twitter account as well. So you should, follow us to be up to date on all of that. And also, we do have a Facebook page. It's at Reunion Podcast. Our YouTube channel is The Reunion Podcast, and we do post our episodes on YouTube for you guys to be able to listen to as well. And our Instagram account is at The Reunion Podcast. So, Vyzz, did you want to drop your socials for Cosmo Canyon Observatory?
For sure. So it's Cosmo Canyon Observatory on YouTube. All the other links should be there as well in the banner, but we're at CC_observatory on Twitter. I've started to be a little bit more active on my personal Twitter account, which is at Vyzz. And if you don't know how to spell it, on my Cosmo Canyon Observatory page on Twitter, in the bio, it says it's spelled out. So just copy and paste this into the search bar, and I should pop up somewhere. And there's the Discord, which can also be found. The invite link in the Twitter bio of Cosmo Canyon Observatory, and I think that's it. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me. It was awesome to get to talk to you, and answer these questions that our members of the community have asked us. So I had a lot of fun. I hope you did.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was really cool.
All right, guys. So this is Kai. I am signing off. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.